How to be innovative at work and at home. Just like the last few weeks, our discussion of this self-development topic of being innovative is also based upon Charles Duhigg's best-selling self-help book called Smarter, Faster, Better. I've used insights for being innovative from Charles Duhigg's book and mixed them with my own experience of watching other people do innovative things and also of experiencing innovation firsthand. So let's start our discussion with questioning what is innovation. So like anybody else, first thing I did was I went on the internet and searched the meaning of innovation. And the internet gave me this definition, which was much less than helpful. The internet said innovation is the action or process of innovating. Now, if somebody doesn't know the meaning of innovative, this definition isn't really helpful. So I scrolled a few more links down and I came across this definition, which I think is more helpful. So according to this website, innovation is the introduction of a new idea or a new method or device. Sounds good. So creating something new basically is innovation. Okay. So I went back to the internet. I looked up reasons to innovate and I found innovation increases your chances to react to changes, discover new opportunities. Also, it also helps foster competitive advantage as it allows you to build better products for your customers. So if you are a person or a group of people that make products or services for your customers, I think innovation might help you. If you're a person that wants to build up some resistance to change because change is the only constant, or if you like new opportunities, I think being innovative might help you. I also asked myself as to why I like innovative people or why I like innovations or why I try to be innovative whenever I can. And one reason I found was because I just like doing the same things, possibly in a new way. And reason why I might like that is because I like renewing my own perspective. But I still kept thinking about it as to why I enjoyed renewing my perspective, right? Why does it matter trying to do the same things in a new way? And at least for me, the reason was because new perspectives, they stimulate my mental focus and my curiosity. So when I feel more curious about, coming up with a new way of doing something, I I genuinely feel inclined to focusing better at that task. And when I focus, as with everybody else, when we apply our focus, we perform better at things and we derive more meaning, more satisfaction from them. So that is, in a way, why I thought I like to innovate. But at this point, I had my own eureka moment. I simply realized I like to innovate because it makes me happy. It delights me. So simply put, I think that was reason enough for me to like innovating because it just made me feel better. So let's look at what other people think about innovation. William Blake, author, poet, he says, what is now proved was once only imagined. So according to William Blake, innovation starts in the imagination. Makes sense. Another author and poet, Arthur Clarke, says the only way to discover the limits of the possible is to go beyond them into the impossible. So here, the author almost sort of, I think, talks about two different realms or dimensions. One of them is the possible dimension. The other one is the impossible dimension. And to find out where the possible dimension ends, you need to go into the impossible dimension. But I guess that is the catch, right? If you go into the impossible, it doesn't remain impossible anymore. It becomes possible again, right? So I think that is the takeaway here is that there is nothing that's impossible. If you keep exploring enough, you expand what is possible. Albert Einstein says, you can't solve a problem on the same level it was created. You have to rise above it to the next level. Interesting, right? So we see a pattern in their thinking already, right? Okay. J.K. Rowling, creator, author of Harry Potter, says, anything's possible if you've got the nerve. I like that. Steve Jobs, inventor, creator of iPhone, I think also the person responsible for my bad eyesight, because when they released iPhone, I was 17 years old, and that piqued my interest in software development. And I guess that was also the point when I started to lose my vision because I kept staring at the screen. Both he says he wanted to put a ding in the universe, right? So again, a pattern here is both of these folks, they think about innovation from almost from like their point of will, or like their power of will. They want to do something, and they say if you want to do it bad enough or good enough, you will do it. Interesting. So when coming back to this book, Smarter, Faster, Better, when I saw that the book had a whole chapter about innovation, my question was to myself, is there a simple formula in this book that'll help me become innovative? File not found. There was no simple formula that you could use, no special formula. But being the pragmatic realist that the author is, he said, whenever, if ever, you set out to innovate something, you'll always have these two things: obstacles. So thank you, Mr. Duhigg, for that. We already know, some of us might guess that we'll face with obstacles when we try to do something new. But the other item that the author says is our own experiences. And the author says these two are the only two things, so to speak, that you will need to spark innovation, right? Innovation is something that's unique, right? And innovation is something that's unique, that has ever been created or that will potentially ever be created, right? Unique being the key word here. And just like the innovation, your set of obstacles that we face are unique to us, right? The set of obstacles that I face are unique to me. Nobody else will face the same set of obstacles. They might be similar, but not exactly the same, right? And the same goes for my experiences. The set of experiences that I will have in my lifetime will be unique to me. And there might be people with similar experiences, but not with the same experiences. So the author says this unique combination of unique obstacles along with unique experiences is all we need to spark unique innovations. Fair enough. So the author goes on describing certain obstacles, right? Common obstacles being lack of resources. Resources can be different things, right? Time being the biggest resources, equipment, support from other people, help from other people, maybe help, support from ourselves, right? Lack of ideas, lack of proven ways that work. Now, to me, lack of proven ways that work, it doesn't sound much like an obstacle. It almost sounds like an opportunity to me, right? Because if there were a proven way that worked, I wouldn't really have the opportunity to innovate, right? And lastly, lack of motivation and lack of inspiration. Now, side note, if you ever feel lack of, if you ever feel the lack of motivation, if you ever feel like you need motivation, I invite you to go on YouTube or Facebook, search for Vistara Circle, How to Be Motivated. We have a nice talk about motivation that I think might help you. But before digressing too much, obstacles, right? All of these obstacles, the author says, they make you feel helpless, right? Especially when we're faced with this challenge of innovating something that usually comes along with a tight deadline, right? Let's say you're making this special dish for your friend, you ran out of necessary ingredients. What are you going to do? You have 20 minutes, you need to put something together, you need to innovate now, right? So you feel helpless. And this is exactly why the author likes to call obstacles as creative desperation. And I quite like the term creative desperation much more over the term obstacles, because when I think about obstacles, I think about something that's outside of me, that's existing in this universe that I'm functioning in. And it's an obstacle, right? It's obstructing my way towards progress. But when I call it creative desperation, this desperation, it lies within me, right? So as soon as it starts being something that's within me that I'm feeling, I immediately feel like I'm in control because it's a part of me, it's within me. So now that I have control over it, let me do something about it, right? So that is why I like this term creative desperation that the author suggested. And we'll come back to creative desperation. Talking about experiences, introspection. We've already spoken about this in our past sessions, right? Using experiences for advantage. Quick refresher, the author encourages we use our experiences. We ask ourselves, why did things that work did work? Why did things that didn't work not work, right? But apart from this introspection, the author tells us to do something unique. He tells us to generate a sense. He tells us to convert our experiences into their essence. So maybe I'll quickly describe what that means using an example, right? So I've been hiking for a few years now. It's been about 3, 4 years. So when I actually started hiking several years ago, I did because I have this friend of mine who takes amazing photos, and I saw his photos. And if you know me personally, or maybe even through the camera, I'm like not the smartest person around, right? So I number one wanted to take these awesome, like similarly awesome photos and like be in these awesome environments. And number two, I wanted to challenge myself, right? To do something that I thought was difficult. And several hikes, several months and years later, now I feel my real takeaway of hiking is not this sense of awe for nature, or this, this sense of proving something to myself, but rather when I am in these awesome situations, like these awesome environments, this mountain that looks so larger than life, literally, maybe on Instagram, on social media, when you're there in person, it's actually the gentlest, the subtlest entity, even though it's so big, right? Literally speaking. So I like being amongst these gentle giants that are the mountains. And when I'm near them, around them, I lose. I lose this like need to like act and react to to stimuli. Like when I'm there, I'm only there, and that is what I love. And after enough practice, I feel that way even on a walk that lasts like half a mile, or on a walk that can sometimes last several miles. Like I've been on walks that are like 15, even 20 miles, right? So long story short, when I reduced this experience to my essence, I realized I might sign up for things not knowing what I might get out of them, right? So it could work towards my benefit. I could, start something new. I could start doing something, and I could, without realizing, I could take away something much more than I had expected. Or I can engage in a new activity and find out, hey, it's not really helping me feel better, right? So that's my key takeaway. That's the sense that I got from this whole endeavor. So that's what the author encourages us to do: is introspect and convert our experiences to their essences, because this essence, this kernel of meaning, is an abstract concept, right? So when you take away sort of this lesson or this moral from your story, you create an abstract truth that can be applied even in a different context, right? So next time, let's say I have this assignment at work that I don't feel too interested about, I'm going to remind myself about hiking. Hey, remember you started hiking thinking about it one way, but now after hiking you think about it another way, right? So maybe take up this assignment and see how it makes you feel. Maybe you feel better about it, or maybe you feel worse about it, and maybe then you can make up your mind if you really want to do it or not, right? So that's what the author has to say about experiences. That was his biggest takeaway: is convert your experiences to their essences. And he had this nice term for a person who uses their experiences and their creative desperation towards innovation. He calls such a person an innovation broker. And reason I chose this picture is because I think this person looks like me. It's not me. And these mountains, or what look like islands, are really mountain tops, and they're surrounded by this sea of clouds, right? So if I go back a slide, these mountaintops, to me, are like experiences, right? They're like the essence. And these clouds are like creative desperation. So when I'm hiking, all I see is the cloudy sky. But when you hike for like hours, you break through this uh, blanket of clouds. You go on the summit, you realize, wow, it's actually a sunny day, much above these clouds, right? So that, if that's not innovation, right, that's a good example of innovation, right? So that's why I like this picture. Going back to being an innovation broker, according to the author, an innovation broker contemplates past experiences, converts them to their essence. Very importantly, he or she, they embrace creative desperation, including the panic, the stress, because it's all a part of the process. It's unique to you. And this difficulty you're facing is actually this guiding light that shows you the direction you want to move, right? So if you're feeling not so well, that means you're on the right track. And when you embrace this creative desperation, you let it be your driving factor. You let it spark inspiration within you to allow these seemingly disparate experiences to come together and form this unique fusion, which is that so-called innovation, right? So is this the end of innovation? Like, is this innovation really? Not yet. There's something really important, excuse me, that the author wants us to do. Once we, combine our creative desperation along with our past experiences, is author tells us to not get attached to your innovative combination of ideas. Because guess what? The first idea, or the first few innovative ideas you might get might not be the best ones. And they might, seem amazing to you, but if you let them, if you let yourself get attached to them, you'll actually hinder this process of innovation. Author tells us to not stop at the first innovative idea you get. He tells us, if situation permits, create or consider a few alternative ideas and not be attached to any of them, so that you can critique them without being biased, right? So that you can critique your own babies without being biased. And that way you can, emerge with the best idea that's the most innovative, that's the most applicable to your unique situation. So in summary, beautiful painting, right, of mountains again. I loved how the painter has created fog along the valley. So summing up, for being innovative, author tells us we need to contemplate, convert experiences to their essences, embrace creative desperation, which for me is one of the harder things, innovate without attachments, so that you can go back to these several innovations, critique them, and emerge with the best one. Thank you. What are your thoughts about this approach to innovation? And for those of us that are on YouTube or Facebook Live, please let us know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll read out your thoughts, and we can have a conversation that way. Thanks.
Thank you, Apurv. What comes to mind for me is that quote that necessity is the mother of invention, because it really is that creative desperation thing of, wow, I really need this thing and I don't have these resources. What can I do about it? Using a paper clip and a rubber band and hooking it around the vent of your car to act as a, the holder for your cell phone. It's like, if you don't have a holder for your cell phone, but you need one, it's like, okay, what do I have that I can use to do with that? So I totally agree that that creative desperation is just so crucial. And I also find that for me too, the curiosity is crucial. It's like the curiosity creates this openness, so that it's, I wonder why that's like that, and what to do about that, and da 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 da. And in your example of cooking, I'm out of this spice. I wonder what this dish would taste like with this spice. Like there is that curiosity that I think is so crucial for innovation. And if we just get stuck in a rut in our own ideas of, okay, it has to be like this, can't veer off from the road, then you're not going to innovate. Like it's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely. Like when you mentioned being open, it made me realize, I think like it's easy to think about innovation as an intellectual exercise, but when you mention being open to other possibilities, to me that sounds just as much of an emotional exercise, right? I think that's the emotional aspect of it. So yeah, definitely. And yeah, I agree. The uh, necessity being the mother of inventions. Yeah, it's a great saying. Mhm. Anybody else have anything to say? Or you want to say something? Okay, we had some comments from my dad. Innovation makes things in life easier and attractive. Okay, yeah, I agree. Maybe not always, but yeah, the good innovation I think makes things in life easier and attractive. And my aunt says, nice explanation. Thanks, Apurva. Thank you, Atya. I also feel like the point about not being attached, I think that's also pretty important because nowadays, like we have the internet, right? We have people around, collaboration. So we do have the ideas floating around. So we have the quantity, but then when it comes to quality, I think like we are our biggest like detractors because we jump at the first idea and it might not be the best one. Um, and very often I feel like the first attractive idea, it actually might be like a pit, like it might lure you to do something the same way it has done for everybody else, and you might actually end up repeating other people's mistakes instead of learning from them. So I think we help ourselves not fall in that pit when we remind ourselves to not be attached to these ideas.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that also um, there needs to be a willingness to fail. Because again, to go back to that cooking example of thinking, okay, well, maybe I can put in this spice, and you put it in there and then it actually tastes terrible. I mean, does that mean that you give up cooking altogether, never try this dish ever again? No. I mean, you say, okay, well, that spice didn't work. What if I did this spice next time? It's just, yeah. So that it kind of goes back to that not being attached to ideas, but then also being willing to fail and to make mistakes, because you will. You can't be innovative without making mistakes on the way. That's how you're learning.
Definitely. Yeah. Say something.
Hi, namaskar, everyone. I'm just curious to know if the author sort of the desperation part, the creative desperation. I was just wondering, is that likened to spontaneity in a certain way? Because sometimes we do have those great ideas at that spur of the moment. We say we just thought of it because circumstances seem to have been right in alignment at that moment. So I was just thinking in my mind before I started to speak, is that sort of a part of the creative desperation when you really need to think of something?
Yeah, I mean, my opinion, I think spontaneity, I think, is this whole process. But because I guess like the circumstances align themselves, I think it all happens in like a moment. I guess this whole process that we just spoke about, I think is what spontaneity is.
I think that they're related, but also different, because spontaneity can also be, a friend calling me out of the blue and saying, hey, can we go hiking in the next 10 minutes? So, like that's spontaneity, but you're right. So is that spontaneous idea that comes up as a part of that creative desperation.
Yeah. Hey, as you guys were talking about this, right? As Anushila, you mentioned spontaneity, and Radha, you mentioned this example of friend calling, and I guess some of the best plans are spontaneous, right? So I think, like as you guys mentioned, that reminded me of my attachment to not be attached to my ideas, and in that process, I end up working on too many ideas. But yeah, and I think as I'm doing that, I'm violating like some of the other things that we spoke in the past few weeks, right? Of like not stretching yourself too thin, of having a goal and knowing when to stop. So yeah, I think spontaneity counters that attachment also, to not be attached and to stretching yourself too thin.
I think it all comes back to that balance of, you can't be too spontaneous, because then you'll never accomplish anything and you'll never commit to anything, and then your life will just be this chaotic whirlwind of like, okay, I'm doing this thing next and I don't know what's going on, and then if you have not enough spontaneity, then your life is boring and predictable, and human beings crave innovation. I mean, this is we love this. We want new things all the time. So you have to have both, I think, in order to be happy, successful, fulfilled.
Yeah, definitely. Something I thought about after I put this deck together is how like arts, especially music, maybe also definitely also dancing, like these arts let us go through both these extremes of being spontaneous but also practicing something the same way, for hours or maybe even for years. So I think that gamut, I think only arts, I feel, can give us, because other practices, they're not as all encapsulating. But yeah, I definitely relate with needing spontaneity but also not being all over. Anybody else have anything to share?
Namaskar. I'm Sneha. So, speaking for myself, I think innovation, in a way, whatever we are taking efforts to innovate anything, or what we are thinking that will be innovative or not, but the outcome, which may be good or bad, but I think efforts are the most important while thinking innovation. So, I think we should appreciate the efforts also. Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah. My mentor says, you get an A for effort. Yeah, I agree. I think effort's the first and the most important step here.